Hi, I'm Cindy Winget, the author of some gothic horror mashups, and welcome to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be doing another TBR video. So we're going to go ahead and shake my little dice and see which one we get. For those who may have missed my last one, the way this works is I roll the dice and that determines which bookshelf I'm looking at. And then from there, I go to every shelf and pick a book from each shelf. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, time to roll that dice. 4. Okay, so this is my number 4 shelf. I need to move this out of the way. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Well, I think I know exactly which one I'm going to choose, actually. I'm going to choose The Quiet Tenant. Ooh, sorry, it's very glary. I'm going to choose The Quiet Tenant because this is one I really should have read last year, I think it was. Could have been 2 years now, but everybody was talking about this book and saying it was so good, and I just never got to it. So I really need to get to it. Okay, let's move down to the next shelf. Again, I need to move stuff. Okay, so I really want to do The Drowning Woman. This sounds really good. What Lies in the Woods, I've heard like mixed things about it, but mostly good, and I do really want to get to that one. I also really want to do Jason Rekulac's new book, only because I love Hidden Pictures so much, but the premise honestly doesn't excite me as much on this one, so probably one of these two. Well, I've already read a Kate Alice Marshall this year, so maybe let's save that. I think I'm going to go with The Drowning Woman. Okay, let's go down here. Okay, those were my thriller shelves. Now we're getting into horror. Let's see. I'm thinking this one. I just barely bought this book not too long ago, and I love haunted house stories. So that's the one that's looking the most exciting to me right now. So I think I'm going to go with The Haunting of Room 904. Okay, let's go down here. Okay, I need to move those. Okay. My problem with this shelf is there's too many I want to read. Because honestly, this is like my haunted house, like creepy location setting type books. Other than Polybius, I guess. That one's not. I just didn't have anywhere else to put that one. So, I don't know. I've heard really good things about this one. This Cursed House. And I love the setting because it's in New Orleans. So I think I'm going to go with this one. Okay, come down to my last shelf. Okay, and I kind of need to move some things. Okay. You know, I think I'm gonna choose this one. It Will Only Hurt for a Moment by Delilah S. Dawson. That's the one that's kind of catching my eye at the moment. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with those. Okay, so these are the 6 books that I plan to read in the month of May. So starting off with The Quiet Tenant. This is about a man who is a serial killer and his wife passes away, and so he needs to move. But the only problem is he has a woman in the shed in his backyard that he's been keeping captive, but he also has a teenage daughter. And so he's trying to figure out, how do I move without letting my daughter know that I have this kidnapped woman in the backyard? So he decides to tell his daughter a lie and say that this captured woman is actually a family friend who's down on her luck and needs a place to stay. And he's counting on the fact that she's been there for 5 years now and she's probably pretty brainwashed and fearful at this point, and so he's counting on that to prevent her from running away, basically. And then I think later on in the story it says he does also get a girlfriend later on. That kind of complicates things. But like I said, when I was picking this out, I've heard nothing but good things about this, and I'm very excited for it. Then we have The Drowning Woman by Robin Harding. And I've only read one other book by this author, and unfortunately I didn't like it. It was called The Party, and it just wasn't for me. But the cover of this is just so cool. I love this cover. And I read the first chapter and it instantly hooked me, so I'm going to give this author another shot. So this is about a woman who lost her restaurant and all of these debts started piling up, and so she ends up homeless. And while she's living in her car, she notices this woman who's drowning in a nearby river, and so she goes and rescues her. But instead of being grateful, this woman is beyond furious because she was actually trying to commit suicide and she prevented that. And apparently she's in an abusive relationship with her husband, and so that was like her only escape. And so she was really mad about it, and so she goes on her way, and our main character goes back to her car and was like, okay, well that was weird, expecting to never see this woman again. But the following morning, this woman shows up again and is like, hey, you need to help me escape. So they kind of start this friendship, and she's trying to help this woman get away from her abusive relationship. But then as things progress, she's starting to realize that maybe this woman is not everything that she pretends to be. And then for our horror books, we have The Haunting in Room 904. And this one is about a woman whose sister had always had the ability to see spirits and see ghosts. But after her sister passes away, somehow her gift gets passed on to her. And so now she can see spirits and ghosts, and she uses it to her advantage, and she's now the most sought after and famous paranormal investigator in Denver, Colorado. And so there's a hotel in Denver that seeks out her services, and they're like, hey, we have this room, and every few years a woman is found murdered in this room. And it doesn't matter what room they actually check into, because they're not letting people actually check into this room, because that would be, unethical. That would be not a good idea. But no matter what room, I keep wanting to call them patients, no matter what room these patrons keep checking into, they always end up murdered in room 904. So now she's trying to investigate this room. It gives off, what is it called? That Stephen King book. It might not be a book, it might be a short story, but 1408, is that what it's called? It's kind of giving those vibes, but I'm very excited for this. And then we have This Cursed House. And this is about a woman who's living in Chicago, but she's having issues with her family and other things in her life, and so she needs to leave. And so she ends up being hired by this family in New Orleans. And it doesn't say what the job offer is, but she gets offered a job for this rich family living in New Orleans named the Deshawn family. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And this is back in the 60s, by the way, so it's a bit of a historical horror novel. And come to find out that this family, who's very snooty and looks down on her because they're a black family, but they can pass for white, and she's very dark, and so they kind of look down on her. And so come to find out that this Duchamp family actually has a curse on their family, and for whatever reason, they believe that she is the only one that can break this curse for them. So that's very intriguing, because it sounds like when she gets there, they're not going to let her leave until she helps them. Anyway, it sounds very atmospheric, sounds fun. I love books set in New Orleans. And then we have It Will Only Hurt for a Moment. And this will be my first book by Delilah S. Dawson. I haven't read anything by her yet, despite having owned several of her books. And this is about a woman who is going through some troubles in her life, and she decides to go to this artist's retreat or artist colony, and she's gonna strike up pottery again, which is something she used to love back in her past. And so she just wants to go to this colony and find peace and tranquility and hopefully better her life for herself. But when she gets there, she's digging an underground kiln for her pottery, and she discovers a body. And ever since she discovered that body, weird and disturbing things have been happening to the other patrons at this colony, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. Sounds very atmospheric, sounds very fun. I didn't realize until I was doing this video how similar the last three books are. They are kind of not necessarily all haunted house stories. I think The Haunting in Room 904 is the only truly haunted house book, but they all sound very atmospheric and very haunting, which I love. So I'm very excited for this lineup of books to read. So this has nothing to do with my TBR, but this is a bookish channel and this is bookish news. And I'm a book nerd, so I just want to share it because it's exciting for me, and hopefully it will interest you as well. So after filming the TBR video last week, I actually, a few days after that, was gifted a new bookshelf by my wonderful husband. So now I have a new bookshelf that matches all of my other bookshelves. And so I just wanted to share what it looks like because that's what I do. So this is what it looks like far away, and then I'll go up close and show you the rest of it. So on the top, I have my Nightmare Before Christmas stuff because I happen to love it. So that's kind of my little shrine to that. And then I have my horror novellas back behind my back behind my Jack and Sally statues. And then down here, I have some point horror books and like other vintage horror books from the 80s and 90s. And then I have my Christopher Pikes back behind Sam here. And then I have my Riley Sager books because I love Riley Sager. And then down here just starts all of my horror hardbacks. So back behind the Winchesters, we have all of my horror hardbacks, which continues down here behind my Beetlejuice. And then plenty of space for more books, which makes me incredibly happy because my last one was full. And then as you saw earlier in the TBR video, this was the bookshelf that used to be there. And my husband chopped off the top of it so that it could fit here because we have the light switch. So we couldn't have like the full tall one. So he said he would cut it and he would let me have another bookshelf as long as he got to have the top for his stuff. So he's got his cool little Back to the Future car here. And then I've got my hardback romance novels on this cute little shelf. Again, with extra space, which again makes me happy. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post videos every Friday, and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.